Hey, good afternoon there, sweet peas. So basic prepper mom here, and I have my Mylar bag, and I'm going to kind of do a quick demonstration on the Mylar bag. These are the Mylar bags that I get off of Amazon. They're pretty good size, and these are the oxygen absorbers. If you're using oxygen absorbers, when you open the package, make sure you put them back into a sealed package, like a Ziploc bag or something like that that's pretty thick. Don't just leave them out in the open, otherwise they don't last as long if you're not going to use them all right away. So I usually do this on my countertop or my glass stove top, only because I have to use an iron, and I have the iron turned on and ready to go. But I have just my plastic table here. I use my wood table, but my wood table is in the process of getting refinished, so here we are. So I'm going to use just this hard plastic cutting board. It should be okay for the short amount of time that we have to use the iron. So I also have my kitchen scale. I like to package in 1 to 1.5 to 2 pound packages, depending on what I'm packaging at the time. So I just have the, digital scale that I got here, kitchen scale that I got. Now, I like these bags because, especially when you're talking about specific or specialized flowers like this, I usually will cut the bag in half, and that works really well for me. And like I said before, I get 2 for the price of 1. So I'm just going to kind of guesstimate here, and I usually just go right down the middle. If I do make it a little too small, then I have other things that I can package, like spices and seasoning and things like that don't require a large area. So now I have the end of the Mylar bag, right? So just the end of the Mylar bag. So what I do is I typically will take the end that I cut, because I cannot cut a straight line. I have been a preschool teacher for 13 years and cannot cut or draw a straight line. I'm just telling you. But so I take the end that I cut, and then I take my iron, and I kind of tilt the iron. So I'm gonna actually tilt the iron and use the edge of it to kind of get there we go. And then flatten the iron down, and that just kind of gives me a little bit sharper line, I guess. And then I just kind of run the iron back and forth over it, and then I kind of go up, made a little bit wider line at the bottom, and I just kind of do this to make sure it's really sealed, and let it cool. It's gonna be really hot. But then you have a completely sealed package ready to go for your next product. I'll usually go back on the corners, especially if I've cut all the way through, just to make sure that I have that really good seal on the edges. Yeah. All right. So just with a regular iron on whatever setting, I usually use, I think, the hottest setting. And there you have the bag that is perfectly sealed. Okay. So now we're going to take the bag that I just cut, which I could use either end, to be honest. And then with my scale, I am going to go ahead and so this is actually in a 1 pound package. This is 1 pound already, so we know it's 1 pound. Typically when I get the scale out is if I get like the 5 pound bags or the 10 pound bags of either rice or beans or flour, then I break that down into the scale. Obviously, if it's already in a 1 pound package, I don't have to, for some reason I thought this was 2 pound and I was gonna break it down, but it is 1 pound. So we're gonna just put the almond flour in here, and even with the specialized flours like this, you could actually break them down into half pound packages, depending on the size of your family. I kind of go on not only what serves the size of our family, but if I were in a bartering situation, how much am I willing to barter at a time? Typically for a family, 1 pound of whatever product is going to go a long way for a family of 4 or 5. So I typically will break down into 1 pound packages, more for bartering issue, because it just kind of works better that way if we get into that situation. If not, I still use it for my family. All right, so what I do is I just kind of pack the flour down as much as I can, get one of my little oxygen absorbers, and stick it down into the middle as much as I can, and kind of pack everything down, pack the flour down, or sugar, whatever you're using. And then I put a crease in it with all the flour down there, and this is gonna help me actually with a little bit better seal so that the product doesn't get on the seal. Now this part is kind of tricky because when you flip it over, some of the product is going to tend to spill out. This is really hard with beans and rice. To be honest, I am a beginner and I have not found a way to, except just do it really fast, to seal it without spilling some of it. So what I do is put it down, it's still folded at the top, and then I come in carefully with my iron and go along that edge. And I can usually get a pretty tight seal, and I go around the corners. I can usually get a pretty tight seal if I just kind of go slow and steady enough to where I'm not squishing the bag down, okay? So I just want to make sure that my seal is tight. The other thing that you want to make sure is that you're not putting any holes in the top of your seal, because sometimes with the iron it tends to be a little, if it gets too hot and you kind of get a little overzealous, you can actually put little holes in the top, and that just doesn't help anything. So then what I do is, once I've got pretty good seal, and it's really hot, is I'll usually pack it down kind of one more time and kind of do the same thing on the other side. And just kind of carefully go, make sure I get the edges really well, the corners, and just get as tight a seal around them as possible, okay? So this is what it's gonna look like, okay? And this is pretty, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with this. So from here, I actually have white labels. I happen to be out of right now. But I have white, just regular white labels, and I will put a label on here. I will date it, put what it is and how many pounds or what the weight of that item is. And then I put it in my big storage tubs for storage, obviously. You can write directly on these with a Sharpie. Just make sure that you don't puncture through the because I've done that before. When I first started, I used a regular fine tip Sharpie thinking that, oh, it'll be good for, you know, the writing, and I pushed a little too hard and ended up poking a hole in it. Had to take just basically start over. So that is the Mylar bags. I really like them. I have not had a problem with any of them breaking, splitting, the seals breaking. I think that I want to always make sure when I do a seal that I do a pretty thick seal, so it's kind of wide, so it's not thinner. It has less chance of coming apart. This is pretty well together. Like I said, I make sure to get the corners. But yeah, that is the Mylar bag, and this is our almond flour. So I am going to, I think I have one more bag to do, and then I'm going to get the vacuum sealer out, show you what vacuum sealer I have and how it works, and the pros and cons of the particular model that I have. I do hope at one point to get a larger vacuum sealer, a little bit more commercial, I guess, sturdy. But for right now, the one that I have absolutely works for the price point that I was looking at. But that is the Mylar bags. I personally love them. It has made my life a whole lot easier to just be able to bring stuff home and break stuff down and package it up pretty easily. And like I said, it stores really, really well. I haven't had an issue at all. So if you have any questions or comments, you're feel free to leave those. And until next time, we'll move on to the vacuum sealer situation. But until next time, this is Basic Prepper Mom, and I hope you guys have a great day.